Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be completing the work which we started off 2 days ago, maybe a week now depending on when you'll be watching this video. This was when we upgraded the steering wheel on my wife's sleeper Audi A4. Today we'll be upgrading the gear knob from this old looking one to this nice and modern looking one. Like I said before, this is a very nice gear knob. It's got a nice weight to it, and obviously it is modern. Now we went for black because usually you find chrome or silver all over these metallic parts, but we decided to go for black as we felt that it gives it a nice and stealthy look. We also went for the perforated leather just so it complements the steering wheel. Also we went for the S-tronic badging just so if I can get that focused, it complements the S that is on the steering wheel. Now the tools that you will need to get this work done is of course your heat gun. You will also need a pair of locking pliers. I do admit mine are a little small, but obviously you can use whichever size you have or whatever works for you. And of course you will need the actual gear knob itself. Now crucially important is that you should not depress or press the button before you've actually done the installation, as that might make your gear knob unusable, or to get it fixed, to fix the mechanism inside is a pretty big job. Now what we'll need to do in our case is, once we've gotten the gear knob removed, we'll have to replace the dust cover or boot, remove it from this old gear knob onto this new one, as this one just came without one before we actually install it. The idea is to heat up the plastic part which is inside here and twist it with the locking pliers, so that instead of facing to the right where this button hooks in, it must face to the front where obviously this new button is going to hook in from the front. What I would also suggest before you start working is that you put a towel or some sort of covering on your dashboard in front of the gear knob. This is to protect the interface or the dashboard from heat, since obviously you will be working with a fair amount of heat. You do not want to start melting things on your dashboard. Maybe occasionally also just lift the towel while you're working to make sure that it is providing enough heat shield or heat protection. Now one more thing that's important to remember is that if you intend to reuse your gear knob or to maybe sell it off, it is important to have something like a piece of wire or something that you can use to, once you've pulled on the button, as this is how you get it off, you put this piece of wire around it to stop it from going back in. So you see now it cannot be depressed because there's a piece of wire that is stopping it. Now to get this show on the road, the first thing that we need to do is to get this dust cover or boot off. You can obviously use your trimming tools all around, but I've just found it easy to grip on it and just yank it out. Comes off fairly easily because it has 4 hooks or clips, 2 on either side, that hold it in place. The next thing that we are going to do, like I mentioned, is to pull on the button and put our piece of wire all around to stop the button from going back inside. Okay, maybe you can find something that's easier to work with. Looks like this piece of wire is not the easiest thing, but it does the job. So the next thing is to just twist the boot so that you can be able to lift it up, and once you've lifted off onto this point, there's a locking mechanism, but I believe that is just for the dust boot that you can then just twist off. I think we'll twist it to unlock it because it is locked in place that way, we'll twist it to unlock it, just in case it is actually holding the actual gear knob onto this metal part of the gear. And then the next thing we need to do is sort of yank it off. Okay, comes off fairly easily, actually much easier than I expected. And that is your dust boot and gear knob off. So now you can see. Now to get the boot cover from off the gear knob, you will need your trusted old friend, the flathead screwdriver. What you need to do is twist this locking mechanism to the right. To the left it locks in place, or it locks the boot. To the right it actually unlocks it. And then you would have to take your flathead and just use it to pry this off. This is the locking nut. You just have to find a way to just pry it off. Mine is a bit thick, the flathead. Maybe a thinner one might work better, but just pry it off and just work your way around, as I'm doing here.
A few moments later.
And then it will eventually come loose enough, and you will feel it that it is now loose, and you can take your gear knob out. So once the nut comes off, all you need to do is just twist and pull, and there is your old gear knob off, and you can then put it aside as we'll now start working with the new one. Just as another precaution to ensure that you do not by mistake depress this button before you do the actual installation, what I have done is taken a piece of cardboard. Obviously you can take whatever works for you. If you pull on this button, you can see it opens a bigger gap. Just insert the piece of cardboard in, so that even if you press this by mistake, the piece of cardboard is going to actually stop it from going any further in. Thereafter, you can then, to pull on it, you just pull this red protector out. This means that your button is ready to be installed. Now, crucially important at this point, you should definitely not press on the button. What we will do is just go ahead and install the gear knob onto our dust cover. Again, with most of these modifications, the installation or reinstallation is doing everything in reverse of what we did when we uninstalled or disassembled. So you just take the gear knob and we insert it into the boot cover, and now it is clipped in. I might probably need to just push it a bit further because I can see there's still a gap in there. So we want to make sure that we close that gap, and let's see how we get that done. It's probably going to be a matter of just applying a bit of, should we call it brute force? It's definitely going to be some force. So if you look on this end, make sure this is still, make sure it's still open and locked, which means it's twisted all the way to the right. Left is lock, right is unlock, so it must be unlocked. And then you can see the new gear knob coming through. So you just need to, now we need to just try to push it through, make sure it goes in all the way. So after a lot of huffing and puffing, the boot is finally in place. Now you can see that it's in the open position right now. If you try and get that into focus, it's in the open position because the parts that prevent it are on the gaps. So there's 4 parts that prevent it from coming out that are on the gaps. So once you twist it to the left, that's when these parts are now going to be stuck behind these 4 parts, preventing the boot from coming off again. So that's what you do, lock it into place. And it is really a good idea to have something underneath there to stop you from depressing the button, because while you huff and puff, you might unfortunately press it by mistake. So we'll just put this aside for now and get on with trying to twist this mechanism using our heat gun. Okay, so now it's time to hit and twist. We'll start by applying heat with our heat gun. I'm just trying to not concentrate it in one place so that I don't melt the plastic. Lift and twist if you have to. I feel like I'm in a steam room. Now, since I don't have a workshop, I have to use power tools that are powered by battery. And unfortunately, the battery that I had on the heat gun was 1500 milliamp hours. And so it ran out, and so I had to go out and buy a bigger battery. During that same time, I had to go and pick up the kids from school. So, if you come across a similar situation, all you need to do to drive the vehicle in this state is to lift on the white part with one hand and then hold on to the metal part with the other to shift it into gear. It's reverse, neutral, drive, and in reverse obviously. And that's how you maneuver the vehicle without the actual gear knob. Okay, let's finish what we started. That looks about right. Seems to be facing forward now. So, and now the moment of truth. You can still keep part of the cardboard that I installed in place, just to be on the safe side. We'll remove it after we apply or install the gear knob. So again, just in reverse, we've got to push this down, just work it in until we are sure it's gone all the way down. I am pretty confident that it is now all the way in. Okay, this is utterly refusing to tighten and lock back in place, but that's not a trans mesh, nothing to really worry about. We'll go ahead and just push or install the boot, the dust boot, back in place. And there you have it. The boot, or the dust boot, is back in place. Now for the big moment. Now you can go ahead and just pull on the button out so that you can remove the cardboard piece that was keeping it in place or stopping it from getting clipped in. Now what I'll do is just attempt to depress the button. Hopefully it's going to go into place. Doesn't seem to want to go.
Three hours later.
Now the last 3 or so hours have been very interesting. I'm sure you'll recall during the course of the video how many times I've been saying, do not press the button until you've installed it. Yada 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 yada. Well, I went ahead and pressed it before I'd installed it. And that's why now it's got all of those marks, because I was working on trying to get it back. Even got it chipped over there. So the paint is not as great as it was before. How I did that was, if you look down on the gear lever, it's got these 2 grooves. The gear lever had gotten up to this first groove here at the top, and I thought it was in place and it didn't want to move down any further. And so when I pressed the button, it was actually still on top. It hadn't gotten into place and the button got stuck. So I've spent the last 3 hours or so working on how to actually get this button fixed. So I was fixed. So I was able to actually take most of this gear knob apart. I actually took apart the old one as well. So I took both of them apart just to see how the inner mechanism looks like and how it works. If you are interested in a video on those two, please leave us a comment at the bottom and we'll make that happen for you. But now, to finish off the job that we started, we are going to install the gear knob. Please make sure that it goes all the way down to the second groove. Don't do like I did before. So you just need to work it gently. That's the first groove that it got onto. So try and wiggle it and make sure it goes down further onto the second groove. Now, I don't think it's all that important. If you can get it fastened, since this is not OEM, it doesn't want to fasten here at the bottom, but ideally you want to actually get it to tighten and fasten. But if it doesn't fasten, I've tested it, it actually does work. It's not such a big issue. So we'll leave that like that. So it is now in place, and then we'll close the boot, the dust boot. Just give it another press down, make sure it is in place, and we'll just work this dust boot. If it decides to want to go in, well, it actually doesn't have a choice, it has to go in. And that clips back in place. There you go. So that is clipped back in place. Now you can depress the button and it's going in and out, which is an indication that it is working. So what we'll do, we'll fire this baby up and take her for a quick test drive. Okay, Let's start her up. And she fires to life.
Go for it.
Switch that off. Actually, switch that completely off. And then just press the button as you would normally. Reverse, goes into reverse, neutral, drive, sport mode. Everything seems to be working just fine. Let's put it in reverse to get out of the parking bay. And she is moving. Drive, and we are off. Oh, don't be a dummy like me. Safety first. Make sure you fasten your seatbelt. Alrighty, this brings us to the end of the video. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you like to see more of such content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out when we release new content. And do spread the word, please, by sharing this video, and feel free to leave us a comment and let us know what kind of content you would like us to deliver in the future. Till then, cheerio.